the reason a lot of traders will overtrade is the fact that they are trying to rush the process. Now, everyone has their own reasons for wanting to rush the process. I'll give you guys an example. For me, I see my immigrant parents. They came to a country that they know absolutely nothing about, and then they've created a life for me, which I'm very grateful to have. I have a roof over my head, food to eat, water to drink, and I see my parents struggling, and I want to retire them. I want to make sure that they live cozy. Now, that's my reason for why I want to achieve success, and what that has done for me is has created this sort of like psychological pressure, and it's like a sense of urgency for me to want to achieve that goal as quick as possible. And this reason, right? This the reason for success, that you are chasing success. It may be different for everyone, right? For you, maybe you want to leave your job that you hate. Maybe you want to live that fast lifestyle, the Lamborghini, hot girl, penthouse lifestyle. Now, I know that whole lifestyle is a facade, but listen, everyone has their own motivations, and if that's something that motivates you to want to achieve success, then that exactly is what it is, right? There's nothing negative or positive about it. It depends on how you look at it. Now, going back to why traders will overtrade, right? We have a reason in which they want to achieve success, and that reason will create a sense of urgency for them. And having urgency is great when you want to achieve certain goals, but it's not necessarily great when you come to the charts. When you come to the charts, you want to be as stoic as possible. You want to be unbothered by the ebbs and flows of life, right? Whatever is happening in your personal life, it doesn't matter when you hit the charts. Whatever's happening in your relationships, it doesn't matter when you hit the charts. Whatever's happening at work doesn't matter. When you hit the charts, you want to be focused on the charts. You want to be focused on your trading plan, your risk management plan, your setup, making sure that you're following all the little things that you have, all the little nuances and little tidbits that you have for your trading style, your trading plan, whatever the case may be. So when you have the sense of urgency, what ends up happening is you want to rush this process, right? And so instead of focusing on actually coming to the charts and analyzing the charts and taking a logic based or fact based trade, you're now taking an emotional based trade. Why? Because you associate trading with your get out of free jail card, right? For example, I'm going to use this example of trying to leave your job, of trying to quit your 9 to 5 and going full time in trading, right? When you want to do that, especially, like, I can really relate to this because I currently work a 9 to 5, right? And I'm working hours from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. And it's shit. These shifts are really bad, right? The timing is terrible. But it is something that I'm willing to do at the current moment. Why? Because I need to pay the bills. Plus, I want to be able to focus on other things, like, for example, trading, or taking care of my mom. Which, if you guys have watched my previous videos, you guys know that she is a bedridden uh, person. So yeah, I'm a caregiver for her. And so again, I digress. I'm going off topic, but so let's use that example of, you want to get rid of your 9 to 5 job. And I know, it's shit to work a 9 to 5 job. I'm currently doing it. So I know how it feels. And so every day that you go to work or every day you have to clock in, there's a sense of like, damn, I could really just be living a sufficient lifestyle by trading, right? Because I've seen a lot of other people doing it, and of course I can replicate what I see and emulate what these successful people are doing. Of course, yes, you can, but the sense of urgency that you get from when you want to achieve, when you want to quit your job ASAP, you cannot bring that to the charts, because what it ends up doing is it makes you make emotional trades, right? And I know this for a fact because when I have, tried to rush the process myself, what ends up happening is every single trade that I take is a terrible trade, man. And then I'll think about it. It's like the times that I did not really care too much about the chart or trading in general, is that's when I usually made the best trade. I didn't really focus on the P&L. I just focused on the setup and just following my rules in general, right? And so that's really one of the reasons, right? And another thing that rushing the process will do for you is that it creates this test like environment, right? And I'm currently rewatching Naruto. I don't know if you guys watch Naruto, but I'm at the point where they're at the Chunin exams, right? And I'm gonna use this as an example. So Chunin exams is just an examination for these guys to pass. They want to become ninjas, right? And so they need to pass this rigorous test, and they're in the forest of death, which is basically, the name speaks for itself. It's a forest of death. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there is so much pressure on everyone taking that test because the stakes are so high, right? And when you rush the process, you artificially create this sort of stress, this sort of pressure, right? When trading shouldn't actually have any of this pressure involved, right? But we as humans, we create these timelines, right? And I'm very guilty of this as well. I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna quit my job in 6 months. I'm gonna quit my job in one year, and I'm gonna do it through trading. And so when you create these timelines, you're essentially rushing the process. And what that will do is it creates this inflated level of pressure that you need to basically every time you come to the charts, it is almost like you're taking an examination. It's almost like you were in the forest of death, right? And it's like your back's against the wall because like, oh shoot, this trade has to be good, it has to be a win. Otherwise, I'm not going to get closer to my goal and then I won't hit the timeline that I have here, right? But in reality, what you should do is you should eliminate the timeline, right? Because the faster that we go in trading, the less progress that we will actually make. And this is not necessarily true for other areas of life. And this is why it's hard for us to wrap our minds around this as humans, right? Because in other areas of life, for example, going back to having urgency, trying to rush the process, trying to put as many hours into the charts, which also can lead to over trading. All of these things are great in the 9 to 5 setting, for instance, right? When you have urgency at work and you get your task done quickly, your boss is very happy. When you want to put more work into something and spend more time doing it, that's something we'd call overtime, right? Working overtime at your 9 to 5, and when you do that at your 9 to 5, what ends up happening? You get more money, right? So now we come to the charts and we associate the same feeling of, oh, I just need to put in overtime. I just need to lock in. I just need to grind it out. And while this mindset might be great for things like fitness or like your 9 to 5 or really any other area of life, is absolutely false when it comes to trading. What ends up happening is we create, again, these false pressures, and we just, and I know this for sure because I've completely ruined my progress in terms of trading a couple of times already by, I will follow my plan and just continuously do what I need to do, not focus on the P&L, and just have a stoic mindset, and I'll be able to get some payouts. But then I will, start thinking about P&L, and I'll think about, okay, I have this number that I want to reach, like for example, like 50K or 100K. I want to reach this, and then I can quit my job, and then I can go full time, and then I create this timeline. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lock in. And all these things, what they ended up doing for me is they ended up hindering my progress. So this is the point that I want to get across: is that the faster you try to go, the slower that you progress, right? And there's a story there. I don't know if you guys have ever read the children's book, The Tortoise and the Hare. I don't even know if that's the name, but the story itself is basically there's a tortoise, which is a turtle, and a hare, which is a rabbit. And so these two want to race, right? Or I guess the hare wants to race the tortoise, whatever the case may be. They're about to race, and what ends up happening is when the race starts, the hare, he gets off to a crazy head start, right? He just, because he's a rabbit, so obviously he's gonna bounce his way, and the tortoise is taking one step at a time, one step at a time. What ends up happening is the hare actually ends up taking a nap midway through the race, right? And then the tortoise, even though he's going slow and steady, he's super slow, man. He's sluggish as hell, but he ends up catching up to the hare, and he ends up winning the race. Why? Because he just went slow and steady. So in this case, we can attribute this story, right? We can say the hare is someone that rushes the process. And what ends up happening when you rush the process is that you reach a point in which you need to take a rest. Maybe you burns out now, right? And that's what happened to the hare. And then what the tortoise did was it just kept going slow and steady. Every single step was a step in the right direction towards success, right? And eventually, the tortoise didn't even care, probably didn't even care about the race, probably didn't even care about his competition, because he knew that as long as I just keep making this step, as long as I keep focusing on this step that I need to make, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, you guys get it. And so every time he just, focused on each step, he knew that he was getting closer and closer to the end goal, right? His finish line, whatever goal it was, that he needed to do, which in this case was a race, right? He needs to win the race or he gets to the finish line. For us, it is, becoming a successful trader, right? Wanting to create this as a full-time lifestyle, or maybe just make some side extra money, whatever the case may be, whatever your goal is, you got to understand that the faster you try to achieve success in trading, the worse off you will be. And so I say all this to say, man, like, listen, you will get there. If you're watching this video up until this point, you absolutely will get there. There are certain things that you need to do psychologically, because what I've noticed is I've spoken to a lot of traders, and even myself, I've known that, like the technicals and stuff, there's not necessarily a big issue for people. What ends up happening to be the issue is the fact, just psychological issues, right? And everyone has different issues. You may be having fear of missing out trades, right? FOMO, or you might be a greedy trader. I'm a greedy trader. I have times where I don't take profit, and then it, bites me in the ass. I watch my trade go right back to break even, and then I'll get mad. I'll get tilted, or I'll watch my trade go all the way back to the red, and now I get even more bothered, right? And so you got to understand what type of trader you are, and if you are over trading, listen, the best thing that you can probably do is just to focus on making one trade a day. This has helped me out, right? Just focusing on one entry and size down if you have to, man, because I know you go on social media and you see everybody is just making these large trades, making a whole bunch of money, thousands of dollars a day, but you cannot compare yourself. If you're at like level 2, you cannot compare yourself to someone that's at level 10 or level 50 or level 100. It just doesn't make sense. Again, it's a progression, right? You will get there eventually, but you need to take it one step at a time, just like the tortoise. And so best advice I can give you guys if you guys are struggling with over trading is to quite simply just focus on one trade every single day. Journal your trades, right? Journal your entries and size down, right? Like if you're trading futures, just stick to 1 or 2 micros. And the P&L shouldn't matter. It's just you building that habit of just taking that one trade every single day. So then eventually, let's say you do this for a month or 2 months, you would just naturally know, okay, listen, I just got to take that one entry every single day. And so what I'm gonna do. And then if you want to size up, you can size up. That is completely up to you. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching. And as always, stay frosty, my friends. Peace.